Hey everybody, thank you so much for being here. It is Monday and it's like an old song or something, the hits keep coming. So I'm going to start today's video talking about some of the bad news. I've been talking about dark clouds now for a couple of weeks, but here is more evidence that they definitely are out there. But hang to the end because we do have some silver lining to these dark clouds. So let me just pause this and let's jump in as usual. So again, thank you all. So, disclaimer, of course, now this is financial advice, as you guys know. And the story, again, we're going to talk about some of the dark clouds we see on the horizon and what potentially the next shoe to drop could be. And we'll talk about fire sales that exist in the crypto space. And again, stay tuned to the end for some good news. But we'll do the bad news first. So, first of all, we've been looking at Tether very carefully here. The Tether market cap is down $17 billion or over 18% in 6 weeks. And that is from 83 billion to 66 billion. Don't correct me on that math. I might be slightly off on those numbers. But the numbers of 83 down to 66 are definitely true. The redemptions are happening at a very fast pace. This could be one of the big next shoes to drop, everybody. And I've been talking about it for a long time, talked about it in 2021. But now it looks like there could be a run on Tether, like there was a run and people pushing liquidations of other assets that we've seen recently as well. So this is from Brickhouse. Thank you for sharing. From Watcher Guru. Justin, Tether CTO, says there have been coordinated attacks by traditional hedge funds trying to short USDT, which is Tether. And again, this is a speculative attack. And right now, with this very extreme level of redemptions, to unwind positions that fast, $17 billion in a short window of time is intense. So be careful, everybody. Do not hold any Tether. Switch to USDC or something else and be careful. So in other news as well, Voyager and 3 Arrows Capital, they've been filing more memos. They've been very open and public about everything that's going on. But obviously 3 Arrows Capital failed to make payments due on the loan of 15,250 Bitcoin and about 350 million in USDC. And Voyager said they were going to do this, and they did file against them. And in the meantime as well, just so people know, they were clever enough to shore up that gap of 15,000 Bitcoin with a revolving line of credit from Alameda Ventures, Sam Bankman-Fried's operation. So they do have that 15,000 Bitcoin, and I can't remember exactly how much, but a couple $100 million as well of USDC as they go forward. So they should be kind of liquid. They still have a lid on withdrawals right now, but everybody take out what you can, just in case. BlockFi, this is another one. FTX proposal did have embedded in it the option to acquire BlockFi. We discussed this last week at basically a price of 0, according to Mark Yusko. He is trying to build a block of investors together so they can actually make a bid on BlockFi as they go forward. And Sam is the lender of last resort, but it seems that a lot of these companies actually do have assets, but because they have liquidity problems, they are selling at fire sale prices. So, they are beholden to what the market says. And this is where Mark Yusko sees an opportunity with his firm, Morgan Creek, I think it is. Yep, Morgan Creek. So watch this space carefully. It'd be good to have a bidding war for BlockFi and hopefully some other players too. So speaking of fire sales, Binance is reviewing deals, and CZ said he's looking at 50 to 100 deal proposals this week. And these are all the companies that are affected by this crypto winter. And I wonder if Celsius is one of those. If FTX is going to get BlockFi, then of course it sounds like a strategic advantage for CZ to have an operation like Celsius. So fingers crossed. And everybody knows that CZ has the largest cash reserve in the whole industry. He has the tune of at least $60 billion last time I looked. Now, in other fire sale news, Sam Bankman-Fried again in the news. You can't get this guy out of the news these days. He apparently is eyeing Robinhood. And Robinhood shot up today about 12% to over $9. And it's funny because if you look at the actual balance sheet of Robinhood, they have the market cap is between 7 and 8 billion, but they have 6 billion in cash. So if you buy a company that has $6 billion in cash and pretty much no debt for $7 billion, you're basically buying the whole company for free. So I think that's what he's kind of looking for. But hold on a second. Then immediately, minutes later, hours later, he denies he's looking at Robinhood. And Robinhood is now falling after hours. There's one other thing as well to mention here. I think, don't correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Sam bought about 7 or 8% of Robinhood a couple of months ago. So he already does have a piece of the pie. So again, watch this carefully. But I think he can replicate what Robinhood can do pretty easily with his very nimble developers he has on hand. So in Celsius news, this came out from Block. This is Celsius seeks show of client support as lawyers push for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. So it's very important to understand Chapter 11 bankruptcy is a reorganization to keep its business alive and pay creditors and customers, etc. over time. Now, people in business or individuals can also seek relief in Chapter 11. And that's what the lawyers are recommending right now. So it's not all doom and gloom, everybody. So don't panic. I'm not slinging hopium here, but we'll see. One of the things that Celsius does want, though, is more time to be able to reorganize themselves and come back out. And they want to see a show of support from users, like users turning on hodl mode or something. I don't quite understand how that'll actually impact anything, but that's what they're hoping for. So we'll see what happens. But one of the key things is Celsius have a lot of positions. They've got a lot of stuff on chain, but sometimes it takes time to unwind these positions, just like their staked ETH. That may take another 3 to 6 months to unwind that. But doing that under duress could cost more money. So bankruptcy may be faster, but people may get less of their crypto back. So in a nutshell, if they liquidate at market rather than take time to unwind positions, it's better to take time and unwind positions slowly because of the nature of how they have positions. So again, we promise to keep on top of this as soon as we hear more. And the other news regarding Celsius, I think, is 90% sure it's FUD. So we're not even going to talk about it. So in some mining news, Preston Pish tweeted this. Curious if anybody has any information on the situation. It was about Compass Mining, as Compass Mining and Advanced Mining and all these mining companies are really suffering right now. They are having some issues, but the hosting agreement in Maine was terminated by Dynamics, etc. And apparently, per Magoo, PhD, he says as the Compass people broke into a data center and took back all the miners by illegal force. And they tried to get into another data center, but were stopped. So things are getting very, very desperate out there. Not only fire sales, but mining companies not able to pay their bills, pay their electric bills, pay their data center bills, etc. So they're breaking in and stealing their rigs because the rigs are very valuable. And of course, they can set them up somewhere else. So again, a scary, scary time. In fact, there was a Reuters release that the stock market had the worst opening in the last 50 years, the worst first half in the last 50 years. So put that in perspective, everybody. Let's talk about some hacker news. Again, this is the Harmony One hack. The hacker was offered a $1 million bounty for the return of $100 million. Does that sound like a good deal to anybody? Anyway, the hacker is currently in the process of laundering the funds that they received via the usual place, which is Tornado Cash, the coin mixing service. And it's so funny because on chain, people can actually watch the money being laundered and disappearing. So shocking to see, but obviously they're not taking the $1 million bounty. Now let's talk about where we are in the market and how much the drawdown has been so far. This is from Ecoinmetrics, a really cool chart. And I hope the guys don't mind, but I added, as usual, my own little arrows just to make it more visual for you all out there. So the blue dots are the S&P 500 drawdowns over history. The orange dots are the Bitcoin drawdowns over history, and the pink dots are the Ethereum drawdowns over history. So each market, each drawdown typically has its own set of unique characteristics. Different times, different causes, different economic conditions, different central bank situation, Fed, interest rates, inflation, macro, you name it. It's all different. So it's hard to say, looking at this chart, exactly where we are going to land, if there's further down to go or if we have bottomed. But just pointing out some of my arrows here, if people can't see them, because it is a bit of an eye chart, the S&P 500 is now down from its high over 171 days, and it bottomed out at minus 24.5% drawdown. Bitcoin is down now 227 days, and it's bottomed minus 74%. Remember, we covered this a few times before as well. It's very rare that Bitcoin bottoms out for more than 360 days. So worst case, it's no more than 130 days of this pain left, and it'll probably rebound sooner because typically, as I always say, markets rebound faster these days than in the past. And the ETH is down 221 days, 6 days less than Bitcoin, and it's bottomed out at 81.7%. But just when you look at those little pink dots, we're not as low as we used to be. For example, the Ethereum bear market in 2018 was down 95%. The Bitcoin bear markets, the last two, bottomed out around 83 to 85%. So we're still a little bit of ways from that. And that's why a lot of people think history will repeat and Bitcoin could hit that 13,000, 14,000 level. But I'm not sure. Right now, we're about 20,900. We're making pretty good support above the 20,000 level. But I think there are a couple more shoes to drop, and that could wick us down again, maybe down to the 17K. We're not sure. It depends how bad the liquidations are and what happens with all these fire sales that are happening. So fingers crossed, we'll get out of the woods soon. But we still see those dark clouds. So let's talk about a little bit of history as well. This is from Glassnode, and they said this is the most significant bear market in digital asset history because it's the first time ever that Bitcoin and Ethereum traded below their previous cycle all-time high. And this is the percentage of days that Bitcoin has traded under its realized price. 14% of the time in history, it's been under the realized price. And we are substantially under the realized price now, approximately 24,000. We're trading under 21,000. So that's a big chunk under that price. But again, it doesn't happen. I always say markets go up 85% to 90% of the time. And we'll see when we start going up again. Now, little piece of silver lining use, everybody. This is the first 11-week red candle Ethereum has ever seen in its history. And it closed a tiny little green candle. So maybe Ethereum is coming out of the woods. Now, the cryptocurrency trades right now is just under 1,200. Last time I looked, is showing some good strength today. It did peak at 1,280 a few days ago and dropped to 1,043. And it did hit about 880 June 18th, I think. So it has recovered 40% from those June 18th lows of 880, but it's still around 75% below its all-time high. So there's a long road to recovery, and there's a lot of uncertainty as well with Ethereum of move to proof of stake, etc., etc. So again, it's good news, but still a long way to get back up again. Now, for those Cardano users out there, this is a public service announcement to be safe. This is from Finbold magazine, and cryptocurrency scammers are increasingly leveraging phishing attacks to defraud unsuspecting victims. The top, thing they're going after is blockchain, then Luna, and then Cardano is number 3. So for those out there, be very, very, very careful of not getting yourself phished. Google what it means if you don't already know. But it is a favored target right now for these fishers. So be extra vigilant out there. It's already the Wild West. You don't need scammers taking all your stuff as well. So a little bit of Coinbase news. Goldman Sachs, who have been meddling in a bunch of areas in crypto recently, they downgraded Coinbase to a sell, which is kind of, I always laugh, that Coinbase was at $350, $400, and they wait for it to come all the way down to like $60 before this market is a sell. I just think it's kind of ironic. Anywho, the shares did slump about 11% today, down to about $56, and they are down 75% so far year to date. And this is kind of exactly in line with Bitcoin price, coincidentally, or not, because they are very correlated. And I think Goldman Sachs' belief that continued downdraft is tied to crypto prices and also activity. And I think it's more to do with competition as well. I think I always said in 2021 that I believed Coinbase would be suspect or victim of some of the DEXs like Uniswap and DYDX, etc. And also some of the ruthless competition coming in. And we saw some news last week about Coinbase shutting down their Coinbase Pro offering and just simplifying everything as well as they go forward. So speaking of GBTC, I don't know if it's good news or bad news, but the key date we're looking for, I think, is the 6th of July. And there's heavy betting against Grayscale getting approved for a GBTC. But despite that, they did line up Jane Street and Virtu as authorized participants. And this is where they have to find a way to bring the discount down to 0. If they do get the approval from Gary Gensler to convert the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust into a spot ETF. So we'll see. But again, from what we hear, what we see out there in the marketplace, it's not looking likely. I think we'd see a move of the discount falling down. If they were, there'd be a lot of arbitrageurs and speculators going after it very quick and buying that 30% discount, 32% discount, 29% discount, 35% discount last week. It's crazy. It's easy money to make if you do know that the spot ETF is going to be approved. That discount's going to go to 0 very quickly with the help of Jane Street and Virtu. But it looks like it's probably not going to happen because we would see the pricing action. But we'll still monitor this very carefully and see what's going on. So another little tiny piece of good news. You can see here, I shared this map before, but this is the blue line is the amount of balance of stablecoins on exchanges. And the yellow is the Bitcoin price. And Bitcoin reserve. So typically, when the amount of stable coins and exchanges increases, the price of Bitcoin falls, and vice versa. They are perfectly inversely correlated. So we see the little blue dip on the top right corner going down, and of course, Bitcoin price will go up when that happens. So again, we watch this all the time because it's a good indicator as to where the Bitcoin price is going to go. So let's talk a little bit about Tesla. This was a cool interview. A big thank you to Sanjay for sharing with me. Exxon CEO Darren Woods says all cars sold on Earth will be electric by the year 2040. Now, obviously, they sell gasoline, petroleum, whatever you want to call it, to the world. And what are they going to do in 2040 if they have no more cars to take gas? Well, he estimates that the amount of gasoline usage will be at 2013 levels, which even at those levels, they're still very profitable. But Tesla, anybody? And by the way, guess how many cars are made every single year right now? That's 80 million cars. And the population is growing. Therefore, you could imagine 100 million cars a year being made easily in 2040. I wonder who the leader will be by then. We'll see, but a fun place to watch. Anyway, in other Tesla news, just looking at some Tesla options from Benzinga, the overall sentiment, I won't bore you to death with the details, but the overall sentiment in these options is a split. It's 40% bullish, 59% bearish out there. There's a couple of hundred puts made by some bettors that just came in, and a big skew of that 60-40 between bearish and bullish. We do expect earnings to be weaker than expected. Shanghai, with their zero COVID, has screwed the pooch. We know that. And but that could be a good time to maybe I would like to see Tesla around 600 just for a little snipe, because I know it's temporary. All things will pass, and this could be a good time. And also, all the top analyst price targets for Tesla still are above $1,000 to $1,200. All the top analysts. So earnings are about 4 weeks away, and again, think they could be bad, which could bring about a dip. Or there could be a surprise. I think a surprise is very unlikely, but we'll see. Either way, they are the clear leader in EVs, and that's why I talk about Tesla a lot. You know, Tesla and Bitcoin are the most important assets, at least risk-reward asymmetric bets over the next 8 to 10 years that I see. And a final piece of a little bit of good news to hopefully make you all feel a bit better. This is from Barrons magazine, and it said the S&P 500 has room to rise, analysts say. They still lower their price targets. So this is a report from Citibank, and they basically said they think better than feared earnings. So earnings aren't as bad as they thought they would be. And there are rising rates, but they do believe everything is kind of priced into the market already. So even if the Fed does 75 basis points in July, it's priced in. And they do believe that they are positive about equities for the second half of the year. Remember, as I started at the beginning, we had the worst first 6 months, first half of the year in over 50 years. Okay. everybody got hit. This is a historically bad time, and that's not even talking about the crypto market. It's everything. So everybody, we'll see. But this is a little bit of positive news from Citibank. They believe everything is fully priced in, interest rate hikes, etc. Valuations. There's also a lot of talk about that pivot. I'm reading a lot of tea leaves, not necessarily financial magazines that are talking about the language of Jerome Powell becoming more dovish. So fingers crossed, everybody. And that's the story for today. Tomorrow is On-Chain Technical Analysis Tuesdays. It used to be TA Tuesdays. Now we call it Octa. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you to the mods. And I love you all. Take care. See you tomorrow.